This bar chart gives information about passenger preference analysis by air route. From the picture, we can see in SF to Sydney the value is 79. In NY to London the number is higher, which is 84. The highest point is in LA to Tokyo with around 86, and the lowest one is the Boston to Berlin with just 72. To sum up, the graph tells about passenger preference.
This is a bar graph. This bar graph provides information about passenger preferences analysis by air route. X-axis talks about the air route, that is New York to London, New York to Paris, LA to Tokyo, SF to Sydney, Boston to Berlin. And Y-axis talks about the percentage preferences, that is 0 to 80%. There are five colors, that is orange, green, blue, magenta, and green. Overall, this picture talks about passenger preference analysis by air route.
The bar graph gives information about a passenger preference analysis by air route. On the x-axis highlighted London, Paris, Tokyo, Sydney and Berlin. On the y-axis highlighted 20%, 40%, 60% and 80%. Uh, The highest value is 80%, which is covered by Tokyo, and the lowest value is 60%, which is covered by Boston, Berlin. Overall, the graph gives information about a passenger preference analysis by air route.
This image is mainly about analysis of air route. Firstly, it is also about London and Paris. Secondly, it gives the information about Tokyo, Sydney, and Berlin. In addition, it gives the information about 80 and 60 and also about 40 and 20. Finally, it shows the different types of color red, black, blue, pink with the highest value and lowest value. I think it is enough. Thank you so much.
The bar graph gives information about air route. There are several categories such as air route anti London, Paris, Tokyo, and Sydney. On the x-axis gives information about air route, which is London, Paris, Tokyo, and Sydney, and the y-axis gives information about percentage, which is 0 to 80. The first category of London, which is 80%. The second category of Paris, which is 60%. The last category of Berlin, which is 60%. Moreover, the highest area is covered by Tokyo air route, which is 40%, and the lowest area is covered by Paris, which is 10%. In conclusion, the bar graph gives information about air route.
The bar graph shows the information about the passenger preference analysis by air route. On the left side of the graph, it shows the passenger preference by percent from 0 to 80, and it is divided by five places, which is New York to London, New York to Paris, LA to Tokyo, SF to Sydney, and Boston to Berlin. The one who got the highest number is the LA to Tokyo air route, which is sitting around 90 and close to 100, and followed by the NY to London. Overall, this graph is very informative about the passenger preference air route.
The provide the image illustrate information about the arrow road or defined type of cities such like a New York to London, New York to Paris, SF to Sydney and Boston to Berlin. In the picture I can see that the New York to London represent only 85%, whereas by the New York to Paris they represent only the 75%. In addition, busy by noticed that the SF to Sydney represent only the 79%, and moreover apparently present that the Boston to Berlin represent only the 78%. Two sums effectively convoy to arrow road to define type of city.
The given image provides information about passenger preferences analysis by air route. There are different type of air route including New York to London, New York to Paris, London to Tokyo and so on. And the data has been calibrated into percentage. After scanning this image, the maximum value can be observed in London to Tokyo, which is 80%. It is closely followed by New York to London, which is 80%, and the least value can be observed in New York to Paris, which is 20%. Overall, the image is very informative.
The bar graph gives information about passenger preference analysis by year route. The y-axis represents the passenger preference in percent from 0 to 80%, and the y-axis represents the year route from New York to London, New York to Paris, LA to Tokyo, SF to Sydney, and Boston to Berlin. Firstly, there is a New York to London, which is around 80%, and New York to Paris is around 70%, and the LA to Tokyo is around 90%. The highest number included in LA to Tokyo, which is around 90%, and the lowest is included in Boston to Berlin, which is around 70%. To conclude, the image is informative.
In this picture, we get to see a bar chart which compares the passenger preference analysis by air route. In x-axis, we get to see the different routes, which consists of New York to London, New York to Paris, LA to Tokyo, SF to Sydney, and Boston to Berlin. In y-axis, we get to see the passenger preferences in percentage ranging from 0 to 80. We get to see that LA to Tokyo has the highest number, which is above 80%, and also New York to London is the close second, which is also above 80%. The least among these ones are Boston to Berlin, which is somewhere between 60 and 80%. In order, we get to see the differences.
The given picture is a bar graph which gives information about passenger preference analysis by air route. The major elements in the picture are passenger preference in percentage and air route. Firstly, it gives information about NY to Paris whose value is 70. Similarly, the value of SF to Sydney is 80. Moreover, important information about LA to Tokyo air route, NY to London, Boston to Berlin can be seen. Furthermore, important information about the highest element, LA to Tokyo air route, which is 90, can be seen, and the lowest element, Boston to Berlin, whose value is 70, can be seen.
The bar graph gives information about passenger preference analysis by year route. The x-axis represents the year route from New York to London, New York to Paris, LA to Tokyo, SF to Sydney, and Boston to Berlin. The y-axis represents the passenger preference in percent from 0 to 80%. Furthermore, there is a New York to London, which is around 80%, New York to Paris is around 70%, and LA to Tokyo is around 90%. The highest number included in LA to Tokyo, which is around 90%, and the lowest included in Berlin to Boston, which is around 70%. To conclude, the image is informative.
The given bar graph gives information about the passenger preferences analysis by different air routes such as NY to London, NY to Paris, LA to Tokyo, SF to Sydney, and Boston to Berlin. According to the bar graph, x-axis represents different air routes, whereas y-axis represents the passenger preferences in terms of percentage, with the value ranging from 0 to 80%. According to the bar graph, the highest value is for LA to Tokyo with the value of 90%, whereas the minimum value is for Boston to Berlin, which has the value of 70%. Similarly, the value for New York to London is 82%. Overall, the given bar graph gives information about the passenger preferences.
This image gives information about passenger preference analysis by air route. There are many elements in this image. From the image, I can say that the highest value is New York to London, which is indicated by orange color and 80%. Now, the second highest value is New York to Paris, which is indicated by blue color and 60%. If we talk about the lowest value is SF to Sydney, which is indicated by pink color and 60%. This image is very informative and knowledgeable.
The given image is a bar graph showing the passenger preference analysis by air route. The x-axis is divided into such regions such as NY to London, NY to Paris, LA to Tokyo air route, SF to Sydney, Boston to Berlin. The y-axis is the passenger preference in percentage varying from 0, 20, 40, 60, and 80 percentage. It is evident that LA to Tokyo air route is the most preferred by the passenger, followed by NY to London. The least is NY to Paris, and the second last is Boston to Berlin. The following image gives a great idea on the passenger preference analysis by a route.